My dad is joining us now, Jay Sekulow, Chief Counsel of the ACLJ, by phone today. And, Dad, I want your reaction to, Judge Merchan granting President-elect Donald Trump's request to file a motion to dismiss against all of the charges in the New York versus Trump case. That's Alvin Bragg's case. The attorneys for Trump have until December 2nd. That's not too long. I can't believe it's not too long from now, but it's not. And then the Bragg only has 7 days to respond. My first question, Dad, to you is, in this kind of situation after the briefing, is there usually oral argument, or most of the time is this done off the judge just reading the briefings and making a decision?
I think the judge is in a situation because to understand what has happened here. The big issue in this motion to dismiss is this. Was evidence submitted at trial that the jury heard that based on the Supreme Court's decision in the immunity case, we wrote a big brief to the Supreme Court on that, where the president received immunity, which he had to, because or else you could never be a president and operate effectively. In that situation, could that evidence have been tainting the jury? Conversations, for instance, that were admitted at trial between the former president, now president-elect, and his staff. And the jury heard all that. I don't think there's any way, Jordan, that can be separated. I think Judge Merchan had no choice in this situation. He had to do three things. One, he had to postpone the sentencing. Here's why. We argued at the Supreme Court of the United States for President Trump, you and I did this during COVID, that these kind of interruptions to the presidency should not be allowed. Merchan knows that now. That is now the law based on the case we did. Number two, the evidence did taint the jury, of course. And number three, you can't do anything that interferes with the sitting president. And here's what's so wrong with all of this. We're talking about the fact that the president, which I think is great, nominated our colleague Pam Bondi to be the attorney general. But the distraction that all these other things take on now the president-elect during transitions time is the reason why the Supreme Court said you can't interfere. A state process cannot interfere with the president.
Yeah, I mean, I think I remember you well, Dad, and I say it often on this show when we talk about these issues, when you said, we cannot, in that case that we were doing right from the room we're in now, an interesting time during COVID, and it went on for a couple hours because they got rid of the time limits. But you said, a president can't govern if local DAs, and the 2,000 plus that there are, who are elected by party, can decide to file criminal charges whenever they want against the president of the United States, that it doesn't work. And I know there's some of the issues of immunity, Dad, that have not gotten fully flushed out by the court, but we're moving there. And this, I think, is that signal to those other DAs during these 4 years is follow follow what even Alvin Bragg and this judge have done, likely, because you can't do this. And it hadn't been happening much before, Dad, but then this team said, let's just flout the rules and dirty him up. As we've said about Jack, Dad, I don't know how many times, is he goes in to take you down at the district level, the lower court level. Most of the time, his big cases have been reversed. So he's not someone that is a great closer. So this actually proves this was all 100%, not even like 1%, but all about politics. They knew it wasn't actually about putting Trump in jail. It was about making him sit there in court so they could say he was found guilty of 34 felonies, and now we're going to, he could be a felon in the White House. That is about to go away. And that talking point obviously was a failure.
Well, I mean, this is the weaponization of the Department of Justice, and that is going to stop. And now you said something very important here. The first line, I don't know if we still have it, but that I said to the Supreme Court when I argued from that very studio you're in right now, was that 3,200 local DAs could go after a president. And you realize now with, as you said, all the federal cases automatically go away. But these DAs will just say, well, we'll just postpone the sentencing of the president of the United States for 4 years. I mean, this is how ridiculous it is. So this is where the court, I think Merchan's going to do the right. I'm not confident. I have hope that Merchan will do the right thing here, which is dismiss this case, and that's it. And then, of course, they cannot try a sitting president.
Yeah. I mean, I think if worst case scenario, he didn't move that way, as you move up the courts, I don't see a way they could move forward with this specific case and still balance that with the Supreme Court decision. I mean, it would have to be completely redone, and without those witnesses, I don't know how it would be redone. I mean, that was all the information. It was already a scam. I mean, trying to make a misdemeanor business records law and somehow tie it to federal election law that they have no business in overseeing. I mean, this is when people realize how bad the lawfare has gotten. It's why Pam Bondi is so important, Dad, because her first job has got to be getting the DOJ back in order, getting the FBI back on track so that it won't be overnight, but so that the American people begin to regain trust in our law enforcement system in America. Because if you don't trust law enforcement, that's a lot different than saying, I don't like those politicians in Washington, they don't get anything done. These are people who put you behind bars. I mean, so if you really have to trust that they are making the best decisions that have nothing to do with who you are, where you live, or how you vote.
Well, I think the Pam Bondi pick is fantastic for a couple of reasons. And one of the biggest is she's run one of the largest state attorney general's offices in the country. I mean, Florida's a big state, and she was in charge she was the chief law enforcement officer for one of our largest and most populous states. So she's not new to this. And I do think what they're all saying is right. They view her so dangerous because she's so competent. And I remember, I think it was the ACLU or Planned Parenthood once put out a newsletter piece on us and said, Jay Sekulow so dangerous because he sounds so reasonable. But that's how they think. Yeah. I mean, that's the crazy part.
Yeah, I mean, this idea, Logan, we can't play the full clip right now. It's actually, we can. Can we play this again? This is MSNBC, Dad. I'm sure you saw it, but just so people get your reaction to it, because it's so unbelievable. They're like kicking themselves now that they didn't keep Matt Gaetz, and they should have been thinking about that all the time, that, well, who's coming next if this doesn't work? But of course, the Democrats, they're not very good on that strategy usually. Let's watch and take a listen.
Pam Bondi is exactly what I was saying in the last segment that we should all fear, because she's competent. We may not agree with her ideologically, but she actually knows how to do this job. So if anyone on the Democratic side or anyone who cared about liberty or justice was thinking, well, maybe Matt Gaetz will screw this up and that'll give us some time. No, Pam Bondi knows what she's doing. She knows what she's doing about immigration. Remember, Florida is one of those states that's been very aggressive about migrants and deportation and moving people to different states and everything else like that. Florida has enacted all sorts of rules and laws to curtail students and what they can do on campuses and finding legal justifications for manipulating education money. She is a dangerous and effective pick, and that's frankly worse than what we would have got with Matt Gaetz, even with the deplorable moral background that he has.
Yeah, because, Dad, they didn't want someone in the DOJ not only who had conservative views and agreed with the president that we have to do something to restore the respect and integrity of these institutions. They know that Pam Bondi can actually get it done. So I think they were hoping, now we know, that Matt Gaetz would take over, thinking, and maybe it wouldn't have been like that, but their thinking there was, he's not going to be able to run this kind of agency. And now they've got a competent person, a woman, and they're starting to attack her. I mean, this is the party that said there's not enough women. So, Dad, we got 25 seconds left. This is a big fundraising day for the ACLJ because next week is Thanksgiving. So though you can donate till November 30th and double the impact of that donation, tell people why to donate is so important today.
Only about 10 seconds.
No, it's very important that you support us. Your gift is doubled. Go to aclj.org and support the Life and Liberty Drive.